My name is Gaurav Chakraborty, and I'm a second-year medical student here at UT Southwestern. And it makes me so happy to see all of you here today on a Saturday morning at 10:30, knowing that you'd be in a lecture hall for more than an hour. What is wrong with you people? I kid. Thank you. I especially want to welcome the incoming medical school class of 2016. Can you all join me in a round of applause, please? Thank you. I hope today gives you a little glimpse of the remarkable individuals on this campus. A year ago, I was in this lecture hall, sitting up there, listening to a lecture on renal physiology. RAS pathway, sodium gradients, ENaC channels, and while I was pretty fascinated by the material we were learning, I was equally intrigued by the lecturer. I mean, if they're going to give us a lecture at a phenomenal institution like this, they've probably got an exciting story to tell. And that was the impetus for Thinking Big today. And our first speaker is actually that professor, Dr. Biff Palmer. And in addition to writing really hard test questions, you do, Dr. Palmer. He's also the first nephrologist in the world to conquer the 7 summits, which are the highest mountain peaks on all 7 continents, including Mount Everest. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Biff Palmer.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, and it's certainly an honor to be able to participate in this first UT Southwestern Thinking Big conference. You know, in mountaineering, when you arrive at a base camp, that's actually a marker of tremendous success. It means you've been selected to be part of an expedition that is going to be pretty formidable. You've shown that you have a lot of strength, and you've been involved in a lot of logistics. And in a manner similar, when you arrive at medical school, that can be considered a base camp. I mean, you've obviously demonstrated academic success, you're a hard worker, and in both instances, now that you're at this base camp, what you see before you are the high camps and ultimately the summit. And so what I would like to share with you, at least, are some lessons that I've learned that perhaps could be applicable to you as you now move to the higher camps and ultimately your summit. Now, I was a medical student here from 1977 to 81, and I will tell you, just as I do today, I thought this was a tremendous institution. And I always thought if you could be a faculty member here and give medicine grand rounds, that was truly a marker of success. So when I was asked to where you would give your senior picture, I said I wanted it in front of the medical grand rounds podium, because I just thought, while probably unattainable, if I had ever accomplished that, that would be a true goal. And so the first lesson I would like to at least share with you is, no matter how remote your goals or dreams may seem, I am here to tell you that they are truly attainable. Now, the first one of the 7 summits I climbed was Kilimanjaro. As you know, this is the tallest peak on the African continent. It's located in Tanzania. And when I reached the summit, this is actually the way it looked. It was a very pristine day. This is the sign that tells you you've reached the summit. But this was the summit photo that I actually have. and it rained basically the whole time I was there. And so the lesson that I learned was that while you clearly want to expect the best, you need to prepare for the worst. And perhaps of relevance to this climb, keep your camera dry. The second of the 7 summits that I climbed was Mount Elbrus. This is considered the tallest peak on the European continent. It's actually located in southern Russia. So you fly to Moscow, spend a couple of days, and then fly commercial airlines down into the southern part of the country. As you can see, that's the route that you climb. This is the base camp. It's actually a man-made barrel structure. You spend a couple of days acclimatizing. As we began this climb, we were able to go above a cloud line, and it looked like it was just going to be just a beautiful day, very clear. But I will tell you, during this climb, a snowstorm came in. There was really a lot of snow. It made the climb exceedingly difficult. You couldn't see anything. And in fact, this is my summit photo. You may make the argument on nothing, that maybe I'm in a white room, but take my word that this is the summit of Elbrus. So if I could leave one lesson here, when things are not so clear, when you're not sure what you really want to do, basically you will able to get where you want to be, so don't give up, stay the course. The third of the continents that I climbed was Aconcagua. This is the tallest peak in South America. It's located in northern Argentina near a town, Mendoza, the home of the Malbec grape. Now, I will tell you, I made 3 attempts on this mountain. The first attempt, I reached 19,000 feet, and our expedition had to be turned back. We had very high winds. It was ripping our tents apart. And so I went back a second year and made it up to a traverse called, near a high point called the Canaleta. Once again, now a snowstorm came in, again, high winds, which are notorious on this mountain, and had to go back. And it wasn't until the third year that I ultimately then made the summit, and the weather this time around was just absolutely perfect. So again, the lesson clearly of this trip was don't leave things undone. You know, it's easy to quit, but if you really want something, keep at it, and eventually you'll get to where you want to be. The next of the summits was Denali, the tallest peak on the North American continent. I was a little bit reluctant to even try this mountain because I was told you really have to carry a lot of loads. You're going to be on this mountain for 2 to 3 weeks. There's a lot of unpredictable weather, so you're carrying food, fuel, and indeed that was the case. Basically, you're carrying about 70 pounds divided between a pack and a sled. The route that you climb, you fly in on a prop plane to this glacier, and then it's 14 miles to the summit. This is actually the base camp here at 14,000 feet, and this head wall is probably the more difficult part of the climb, and then you reach a high camp and wait for the weather to clear and try to make your summit push. This is that head wall. Again, it's a very steep part, and then you see climbers here coming up this ridge. The last part on Denali Ridge toward the summit, the weather really was nice, and had a great summit day. So the lesson here, again, don't be afraid of the heavy loads. You know, when you come to medical school, you hear about the voluminous amounts of material, but it is certainly something that you can easily surmount if you keep working hard. The next of the 7 summits was the tallest peak on the Antarctic continent. Basically, you fly to this southern Chilean city, Punta Arenas. There's a private company that then takes you into Patriot Hills, and then you take a prop plane to the Elbrus mountain range. And this jet, this private company that flies climbers in, it lands on this solid blue ice runway. Then we then take that prop plane where we come to the base camp. This is the route, again, a series of low camps with one high camp. Again, it's unlike all the other climbs. I will tell you that there are not many climbers on this mountain. And so there's a little bit of concern because if you ever get into trouble, there's not many people around. You become very much dependent upon your teammates, even more so than in other expeditions. As we moved to the high camp, it was very cold. I remember very vividly, I had a lot of ice on my goggles. I could hardly see in front of me. But again, sticking with the team, sticking on our rope, we were eventually able to make the summit without problems, as shown here. And so again, the lesson I would offer is you don't have to go it alone. You know, when you come to medical school, you're going to make a lot of friends. There's a lot of colleagues. It's not an individual effort. You're going to see a lot of camaraderie. And that's certainly something that extends even in years beyond. The next of the 7 summits is Carstenz Pyramid. This is the tallest peak on the Australo-Indonesian continent. It's on the island of Papua. And the thing that's noteworthy about this climb, it's a ridge climb. You basically start on one end and you're on a ridge the entire 2,000 feet of elevation. There's a lot of rope, a lot of technical climbing, and it was, again, I was a little bit fearful to even try it, but I decided to give it a shot. This kind of gives you a perspective. You're on a ridge the entire way with very steep drop-offs. There's also this area called a Tyrolean cross where you have to hook into lines and pull yourself over. That's actually me. And they're getting to the other side. It started to snow when we were up there, adding to the enjoyment of the climb. And then ultimately made the summit. So again, don't be intimidated. No matter how difficult things you may be told, again, I'm here to tell you that you can get through it. And then, of course, the last of the 7 summits was Everest, the tallest mountain in the world, and certainly the tallest peak in Asia. I decided to climb the North Ridge. This is the Tibet side. This is the first side that was attempted, the Mallory and Irvine expedition of 1924. And this particular climb, you can actually drive to the base camp. This is at 17,000 feet. You can see the mountain in the background. At this point, you load all your gear onto these yaks, and it's 12 miles up to what's the high camp. And this is a picture from the 21,000-foot higher base camp. And what you see here is the real part of the climb starts here. You go up this, through here, and this is a 23,000-foot camp under this very large ice cirrax. And so about 3 days before we were actually making the summit, everybody on this side of the mountain has the same weather report. And when the weather report said, hey, good weather in the next several days, everybody's making the move. And so this was the 3 days before we actually summited. You can see the whole line heading up to the 23,000-foot camp. From there, the route takes you up this 6 to 7 hours of a snow slope where you establish a 25,000-foot camp. There's a 27,000 camp. And then once you hit this ridge, you go up towards the summit. This is looking up the snow ridge back towards the 23,000-foot camp. At 25,000 feet, the terrain starts to become very steep. You have to find kind of flat areas to put your tent. And then at the 27,000-foot camp, again, it's even steeper still. I will tell you, by this time, you haven't had much sleep. You've lost your appetite, but yet you're burning tremendous amounts of calories. And so just as you in medical school try to reach higher camps, the thing you want to do is always keep your focus on the summit, which, as you can see here. And so at that 27,000-foot camp, we basically spend about 5 hours there and then leave in the middle of the night. What we have to maneuver now are 3 critical steps. There's step 1, this large area called step 2, and this area is step 3. You then go up this, it's about an hour climb through this snow slope, and then it's a traverse and up to the summit. This is the step 1. It's about a 30-foot kind of rock scrambling tied to a rope. While it looks easy, I can tell you at this altitude, there's nothing easy in this climb. The second step is the hardest one. You basically have to work your way through these rocks. There's actually ladders here that the Tibetans have fixed. It doesn't go all the way to the top, so you get there and you have to pull yourself up the last part on these ropes. This is actually looking from the top of the second step down. You can see it's very unforgiving. This is 8,000 feet of sheer drop if you miss, and you can see here the trail coming up. At this point, though, you start to focus on the deadline. When you leave the 27,000-foot camp, you got 12 hours to make the summit because you're going to run out of oxygen. And when you run out of oxygen, you see the consequences. This was a climber in his 30s who died last year. This was a climber who died this year on my climb. Again, there were people who were taking much longer than the allotted 12 hours. This is the third step, again, about a 60-foot vertical climb through these rocks. After that snow slope, again, you go through this traverse. Again, it's very narrow, 8,000 feet down. But I was able to ultimately make the summit. This is looking back down, and the temptation here is as you go down, you want to stop at 27,000 feet. You see those tents there, you want to get in, but that's the wrong thing to do. You got to keep going as far as you can go, down to 23,000. I had 2 of my colleagues who stayed at 27,000 feet. They ran out of oxygen, and they had bad frostbite. One guy here on his fingers, one guy on his toes. So you never want to take the easy way out. You want to keep going. And so I think the lessons I really learned on this climb, you got to stay focused. You got to adhere to deadlines and keep pushing yourself, go to where you need to be. So to summarize, again, let's face it, medical school is difficult. There's a lot of sacrifices. But I want you to be aware that there's tremendous opportunities no matter what you want to do. As you're going to hear today, you may have an opportunity to serve people who have no access to the kind of medical care that you may have an expertise in providing. You may be able to help victims of a natural disaster. You may be able to teach the ethics that are required in medicine and life in general. Or you may do research and win a Nobel Prize, as you're going to hear about here today. But despite all the challenges and all the sacrifices, I want you to come away, and believe me, this is true, my friends, that in the end, it's all worth it. So thank you very much for your attention.